What we explained in the previous clip is photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the process that plants go through to make their own food. In this process, plants take the reactants of water, carbon dioxide, and sunlight to get the products, which would be glucose, which is sugar, oxygen, which is just the air we breathe, and water, which we all know what that is. And so, with that being said, they use their glucose as their energy and their source of food. And this all happens in the chloroplast, which is an organelle in the cell, and that's just where all of this process happens. Chemical reactions like those involved in cellular respiration involve changing matter from one form to another. This rearrangement of matter can be described using a chemical equation. The chemical equation for cellular respiration is 6CH12O6 plus 6O2 gives you 6CO2 plus 6H2O. The C6H12O2 is glucose and 6O2 is oxygen. These two things are the reactants of cellular respiration, which takes place in the mitochondria. The products of this, which is what you get after they've undergone that change, are 6CO2, which is carbon dioxide, and 6H2O, which is water. The equation, like I mentioned, you can see sugar and oxygen, and after the reaction, their elements have reacted to form carbon dioxide and water. The oxygen comes from the air we breathe. The sugar is actually a specific kind of sugar called glucose, and it's obtained by breaking down food through digestion. Through respiration, the cell takes energy from the oxygen and glucose, creating water and carbon dioxide in the process. Water is kept inside the body because it's highly useful to us. Carbon dioxide, on the other hand, is a waste product and leaves the body through the lungs. When you breathe out, you're actually expelling carbon dioxide. To further explain cellular respiration and photosynthesis both together, we made this clip in which you can see that the llama ate a flower. This flower is what was at the beginning of the video. Whenever we defined photosynthesis, that was the zoomed-in version of the flower that the llama ate. So we kind of showed the process that the plant went through to turn into this flower, which is now the food source for the llama. When the llama ate that, essentially it was giving it a quick boost of energy, which is what the cells need to get energy. But cells don't really eat flowers or anything for that case. So the foods that we take in need to be broken down so that the cells can use them. Through the process of cellular respiration, the energy in food is changed into energy that can be used by the body's cells, which I previously mentioned. So, initially, the sugars in the food that you eat are digested into simple sugars. Glucose, which is a monosaccharide. Also recall that glucose is the sugar produced by the plant during photosynthesis. The glucose or the polysaccharide, made from many glucose molecules such as starch, is then passed to the organism that eats the plant, the llama, and then this organism could be, it's the llama. Either way, it's the glucose molecules that hold the energy. Last video, we wanted to show chemical energy, which is what the carrot is going to give off. Those plants or flowers that we saw earlier turn into the carrot, which carrot carries glucose in it because that's the plant's food source and energy source. So therefore, when um, the girl eats it, that gives her energy, the energy to ride the bike. Now, previously in a previous video, the llama had eaten a flower, which again had that glucose and nutrients and energy that the llama needed in order to do whatever she needed to do. So that's why they have the energy to be able to do things because that was the chemical energy. I wanted to mention was that the llama is a heterotroph because, well, llama is a herbivore and the llama is a heterotroph. So, living things need non-living matter as well as energy. Matter is used to build bodies, and it is also needed to carry out the processes of life, cellular respiration, biosynthesis, and photosynthesis. Any non-living matter that living things need is called a nutrient. Carbon and nitrogen are examples of nutrients. Unlike energy, matter is cycled in ecosystems. In the previous figure, you can see how decomposers release nutrients when they break down dead organisms, and then you can also see the nutrients are taken up by plants through the roots. You can see the nutrients passed to primary consumers when they eat the plants. and you can see that the nutrients pass to higher level consumers when they eat lower level consumers, and that when living things die, the cycle repeats. When living things die, that is called death. And then the removal of waste is called defecation, which is what our llama did in the last video we included. At these levels where you have producers, autotrophs, and then you have all the heterotrophs like the herbivores, carnivores, and decomposers, those are called trophic levels. Only 10% of energy gets transferred between trophic levels, so that's kind of how like things transfer throughout that like pyramid. Last but not least, we wanted to talk about how living things contain 4 major types of carbon-based molecules. The organic molecules in living things fall into 4 major groups, so carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. So obviously we're familiar with types of molecules, with like these type of molecules and their functions. Carbohydrates include sugars and starches. So glucose, like I've mentioned several times in this video, is a sugar, which means it would be a carbohydrate. So this is the chemical equation for photosynthesis. So you have 6CO2 plus 6H2O, and sunlight gives you 6C6H12O2 plus 6O2, and there you can tell what is what, and they're labeled. This is for cellular respiration. You have C6H12O6 plus 6O2 gives you 6CO2 plus 6H2O plus ATP.